At number 10 is a conflict that proves even man's best friend can cause an international incident. In 1925, tensions between Greece and Bulgaria were high. According to the most famous version of the story, the spark that lit the fuse had 4 legs and a tail. A Greek soldier on border duty allegedly ran after his dog when it darted across the line into Bulgarian territory. Seeing a foreign soldier cross their border, Bulgarian sentries opened fire and killed him. Outraged, Greece demanded an apology and compensation. Bulgaria refused. What followed was a brief but real invasion, as Greek forces marched into Bulgaria. The League of Nations stepped in, ordering Greece to withdraw and pay damages to Bulgaria. In the end, dozens of people were killed, all possibly because a soldier really loved his dog. At number 9, we have a war fought not between nations, but between 2 American states. The dispute between Ohio and the Michigan Territory was over a 468-square-mile piece of land called the Toledo Strip. The whole mess started with a mapping error. Depending on which map you believed, the valuable port city of Toledo belonged to either Ohio or Michigan. For years, it was just political bickering. Then, in 1835, Ohio tried to claim the territory, and Michigan's young governor sent a posse to arrest some Ohio surveyors. They captured 9 men after firing a few shots in the air at the Battle of Phillips Corners. The only casualty of the entire war was a minor stab wound from a penknife when a Michigan sheriff tried to arrest an Ohioan. President Andrew Jackson intervened and brokered a deal. Ohio got Toledo, and Michigan got statehood and the massive Upper Peninsula. Michiganders felt cheated, but got the last laugh when the UP turned out to be rich with timber and copper. Number 8 takes us to ancient Constantinople, where sports hooliganism exploded into one of the most violent riots in history. In the Byzantine Empire, chariot racing was everything, and the 2 main teams, the Blues and the Greens, were like political parties with street gangs. In 532 AD, members of both factions were arrested for murder, but during the execution, a blue and a green member escaped when the scaffold broke. At the next chariot race, the entire stadium united, chanting for the men to be pardoned. When Emperor Justinian I refused, the place erupted. Blues and Greens joined forces, chanting Nika, meaning victory, and flooded the streets, torching nearly half the city. Justinian was about to flee, but his wife, Empress Theodora, convinced him to stay. He then sent the army into the Hippodrome, where they trapped and massacred an estimated 30,000 rioters. It was a brutal end to a conflict that started over a day at the races. Coming in at number 7 is the politely named Kettle War. This war was a brief showdown between the Holy Roman Empire and the Dutch Republic in 1784. Emperor Joseph II was tired of the Dutch controlling the Scheldt River, which blocked his access to major ports. To force the issue, he sent a ship named Le Louis down the river, assuming the Dutch wouldn't dare to act. He was wrong. The Dutch sent out a single warship, the Dolphin, to intercept. As the imperial ship drew near, the Dolphin fired 1 shot. That single cannonball sailed across the deck and smashed a large soup kettle. Perhaps shocked at being fired upon or heartbroken over their lost lunch, the crew of Le Louis surrendered immediately. The entire war consisted of 1 shot and 1 ruined meal. Number 6 is a conflict supposedly caused by a bad shave. The story stars King Louis VII of France and his powerful wife, Eleanor of Aquitaine. After returning from the Second Crusade with a long beard, Louis decided to shave it all off. Legend says Eleanor hated his new, clean-shaven look, declaring she had married a king, not a monk. When he refused to grow the beard back, the fight escalated. This personal dispute, mixed with other political tensions, led to the annulment of their marriage in 1152. This is where a domestic squabble redrew the map of Europe. Eleanor quickly married Henry, soon to be King Henry II of England. Her massive French lands now transferred to the English crown, giving English kings a huge foothold in France and setting the stage for centuries of war. At number 5 is a battle where an army defeated itself before the enemy even arrived. In 1788, a 100,000-man Austrian army was marching to fight the Ottoman Empire. One night, a unit of cavalry scouts crossed the river and bought several barrels of schnapps from some merchants. Soon after, a unit of infantry arrived and demanded their share. The drunk cavalry refused, an argument broke out, and a shot was fired. Chaos erupted. Some soldiers started shouting, "Turci! Turci! Turks! Turks!" panicking the rest of the army on the other side of the river. Officers shouting, "Halt!" in German were misunderstood by soldiers as cries of "Allah!" Convinced the enemy was upon them, the entire army descended into madness, firing on each other in the dark. 2 days later, the real Ottoman army arrived to find thousands of dead and wounded Austrian soldiers. Number 4 is a war kicked off by a piece of pickled evidence. In 1738, a British mariner named Robert Jenkins appeared before Parliament. He claimed that 7 years earlier, his ship was boarded by the Spanish, whose captain sliced off his ear as a warning to his king. To prove it, Jenkins produced what he claimed was his own severed ear, preserved in a jar. The story and its gruesome prop caused a massive public outcry. Tensions between Britain and Spain over trade were already high, but this was the final straw. Pressured by public fury, the British government declared war on Spain in 1739. The conflict dragged on for years, but it was the dramatic tale of Captain Jenkins and his pickled ear that gave the war its name and lit the fuse. At number 3, we have a war started over a ransacked bakery. In 1838, a French pastry chef named Monsieur Remontel claimed that drunk Mexican army officers had wrecked his restaurant near Mexico City and eaten all his pastries. He demanded 60,000 pesos for his ruined shop, an outrageous sum. His was one of many complaints from French nationals, and France decided to bundle them together, demanding a total of 600,000 pesos. When Mexico refused, France sent a fleet to blockade the port of Veracruz. The conflict only ended when Britain helped mediate a peace deal, with Mexico agreeing to pay the full amount. The whole incident became a classic example of gunboat diplomacy, sparked by a claim for some stolen pastries. Our runner-up is a conflict that brought two nations to the brink of war over a pig. In 1859, both the US and Great Britain claimed the San Juan Islands, located between Washington State and Vancouver Island. Settlers from both nations lived there, but the border was poorly defined. On June 15th, an American farmer named Lyman Cutler found a large pig eating his potatoes and shot it. The pig belonged to an employee of Britain's Hudson's Bay Company, who demanded $100 in compensation. Cutler offered $10. The argument exploded. British authorities threatened to arrest Cutler, so American settlers called for military backup. Soon, the US sent soldiers, and the British responded with 5 warships. Cooler heads prevailed, and a British commander famously refused to involve 2 great nations in a war over a squabble about a pig. A joint military occupation was established until the border was decided 12 years later. The only casualty was the pig.
And at number 1,
the most legendary petty conflict in history, the War of the Bucket. This war was fought in 1325 between the rival Italian city-states of Modena and Bologna, who were already bitter enemies, representing the emperor and the pope, respectively. According to legend, the war started when Modenese soldiers snuck into Bologna and stole a wooden bucket from a public well. While the theft was just the final insult after years of conflict, the bucket became the symbol of everything. Furious, Bologna demanded its bucket back. Modena refused, so Bologna declared war, gathering 32,000 men. Though outnumbered with only 7,000 soldiers, the Modenese won a shocking victory at the Battle of Zappolino. To this day, that very bucket is still on display in Modena, a permanent reminder of a war that essentially started over a bucket.